Hello, I'm Charlotte Cohen and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday the 11th of February. And are we going to see more drama in the title race tonight?
It feels great at the moment that we have such a run, that we took a lot of wins, less conceded goals, but the season is still long, a lot of big games ahead.
Can Rangers get something from a tricky trip to Motherwell as Celtic host Livingston? And it's not just at the top of the league that there could be a key result.
Oh, that's a third goal for Killy. What a goal it is as well. Header goal! St Mirren have the goal!
What will a win for either side mean in the relegation dogfight? And an underperforming Dundee United and Aberdeen face each other. Can either side kickstart their season?
United could finish it here, and they have done. They're in the next round. That's a brilliant finish. Oh, what's going on? Number 6 for Aberdeen.
We'll give you the lowdown on all of tonight's action.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Alongside me to do that, Stephen McGowan, Herald football writer at large, and Andy Halliday, Motherwell midfield maestro. Andy, no better person to talk to us about Motherwell than somebody who plays at Motherwell.
Yeah, listen, I could talk about Motherwell all day. It's obviously been a really enjoyable season. There's not been many better spectators than me this year either, and I feel fortunate to do so. It's obviously been a fantastic season, but still February, still loads of games to play. I think at this stage of the season, with so little games left, that obviously every game is of massive importance, none more so than when it's a team that's round about your area in the table.
And Stephen, you'll be enjoying all these ups and downs. And the title keeps things interesting, keeps you busy, I imagine.
Oh, it certainly does. I mean, it's a title race which I can't remember for quite some time, and it's going to get, I think, possibly quite toxic in the final weeks because it is so nip and tuck. I mean, Hearts obviously took a major step by beating Hibs in what was a poor game, but they've got 12 games to go and they have asked questions of Celtic and Rangers, and tonight it's over to them to answer them.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Edinburgh Derby. First of all, Hearts, Andy, managing to go a game without a red card after pretty much three sending offs in 5 games. I mean, that's got to be a positive for Derek McInnes to get through a game, get 3 points and get away with all your players still in the park.
Yeah, I don't think getting as many red cards as Hearts were was going to be sustainable from now to the end of the season. There was some meaty challenges last night, but thankfully none enough that earned a red card. Well, last night I didn't think it was a fantastic game to watch last night. I think you could argue the case that 3 of Hearts' worst performances this season have probably came in the derbies. You know, the game at Tynecastle at the start of the season again wasn't a great affair to watch, but Hearts did ever so well to get that last gasp winner with Craig Halkett. We all remember the game at Easter Road where Hibs were blistering for the opening 70 minutes of the game, take a 3-0 win, 3-0 lead, then Hearts show loads of character to try and get back into the game. But I thought it was one of them where there was loads of anticipation going into the game last night. We all knew the importance of the game for Hearts, but then obviously for Hibs from the more emotional standpoint, where not only do they want to try and keep pace as much as they can with the 4 ahead of them in the table, but they certainly want to try and stop Hearts winning that league. So the opportunity to take points off them last night, and it felt as if there was loads of enthusiasm in the game, loads of intent, but a real lack of quality throughout. And I must say, especially in the second half, I felt as if there was any team going to get the winner, it was going to be Hibs. But again, huge credit to Derek McInnes' men. I think they've found a way all season long to win games of football, whether that's been set pieces or last minute winners or just finding that moment when they've not played at their best, and they did it again last night.
I think you've nailed it there, Andy. I mean, Stephen, Hearts somehow are just finding ways to win games, aren't they? And that's the kind of thing that wins you titles at the end of the day, is playing not great but finding a way to get the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, the sight of Derek McInnes running up the touchline to hug a ball boy, that's one I won't forget for a while. But I think there was always a concern about Hearts would deal with the loss of Lon Shankland, wasn't there? Because he is the talisman. And it didn't look great because obviously didn't score against St Mirren. A performance which Derek McInnes thought the criticism was over the top. Went 88 minutes last night. Really the only real piece of attacking quality in the game, won it. Thomas Magnuson came on as a sub. I thought Harry Milne was one of the few players who kind of distinguished themselves last night. But the performances, they don't matter a jot at this stage. They just don't matter. I mean, it's all about results. It's a cliche, but it's true. And I mean, Hearts are the only team that are unbeaten in the league at home. It was a big goal, a big moment, and a big game, and now they've got 12 games to go. I was laughing when you asked about the keeping red cards. I mean, I think Hibs fans will tell you that Nick Walsh was hell-bent making sure Hearts did keep 11 men in the park last night. It was a couple of really meaty challenges from, was it Kizaridis and Frankie Kent that went unchallenged, whereas Hibs had a dodgy yellow card for Chaiwa. But I mean, listen, you need every break going away in this situation, and Hearts are taking full advantage.
Yeah, well, elsewhere, Motherwell up against Rangers. Andy, Motherwell's, relentless attack, Rangers' solid defence. It's got the makings of a very, very exciting game, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I think the two occasions that the teams have met this year, I think have been really good games for the neutral as well. I thought the opening day of the season, obviously loads of expectation on Rangers with a new manager, new signings, and the exact same at Motherwell. And I thought on the day we were absolutely fantastic. It was 1-1. 1-0 down for a long period of the game, but I thought we had loads of control in the game, loads of chances within that. Obviously grabbed the goal with 10 minutes to go. And then the game at Ibrox was slightly different in the sense that I thought we started the game ever so well in the opening 20 minutes, had loads of chances. And then Rangers, for me, arguably played their best 45 minutes under Danny Rule in that second half. So I think both teams are going into it with a lot of form. Rangers obviously had that 8 wins in the trot before they dropped points at Easter Road. They've bounced back with two huge victories in terms of scoreline against Kilmarnock and Queen's Park over the last 2 games. And I think it's well documented, obviously. Our form over at Motherwell, only 1 defeat in 15 games, only conceded 4 goals within that. 10 clean sheets at Fir Park, which I'm sure will get tested by the height and power of Rangers. We all know how much a threat they are for set pieces. You only need to watch the highlights against Queen's Park to be able to see that. But I think it's going to be a fantastic game. And listen, it's there's no getting away from it. I know it's this stage of the season, it is a cliche, but these next 7 days in particular for every team in the league, I think it's going to have huge ramifications of how the table looks at the end.
And I suppose, Andy, Motherwell will be well up for this one. If they can go and put a real marker down at home and beat, one of the title challengers, they themselves kind of getting in about that mess at the top of the table.
Yeah, it's been quite nice actually to avoid being a part of that title challenge conversation. But listen, when you're winning games and you're starting to keep up with the table, and I think it's now 5 points between ourselves and Rangers, who are obviously heavily involved in the conversation. Certainly a win tonight will put you in that bracket. But I think the manager and the players have done a fantastic job of focusing on one game at a time. I even think when you look at big games that Motherwell have won this year, the manager has always referenced that next game in the interview. I think he's always had that approach. I think the players have tried to take that on board. But you're kidding yourself on if you don't understand as a player or as anyone part of the club that when a big game comes along. And yes, they are all big games for different reasons. But at this stage of the season, the opponent, where they are on the table compared to ourselves, it's obviously a big one for ourselves, and absolutely no doubt whatsoever it's big for Rangers as well.
It's funny, Charlotte, because you talk about Motherwell. I don't know. I think they're probably giving themselves a bit too much to do at this stage, but they're going to have a heck of a say in who does win it, aren't they? I mean, as Andy was referring there, you have to go back to October the 18th to the last time Motherwell lost a league goal at home in the league. I mean, that was against Falkirk. They've been terrific at home. And every time a team goes to Fir Park, you think they're in grave peril. And that's going to be the case right from now to the end of the season, particularly after the top 6 split. And nobody's going to want to go to Fir Park. So even if they're not going to be right in the title challenge, they're going to have a heck of a say on what happens.
Are you sick of hearing that, Andy? Because I know a couple of Motherwell fans who are sick of hearing Motherwell are going to decide where the title goes. They're going to have such a big say. I mean, do you feel...
They're sick of me, because I've said it at least a couple of occasions myself, so...
They are sick of you. There's no question they're sick of you.
It's nothing to do with that.
But that's why it is such a special season, because the reason that is the case is because you have 4, potentially 5 teams that are in and around the pack, that have done ever so well against whoever they've came up against this season. And I've always been someone that's never been a huge fan of the split in the league, I must admit. But wow, I'm so happy it's here come this season, because you just look at if the table stopped now and you went into that top 6 split, the 5 games that you've got on offer for the last 5 games to end the season are incredible. But thankfully we've got more, and we've obviously got another big game tonight. And it's not only just the importance of the league table, the importance of the game, but obviously Motherwell have supremely caught the eye on the actual style of football they're playing, and throughout the season it's been, regardless of the opposition, that it's still been pretty eye-catching. And only once have Motherwell been on Sky this year, which is I've got to say, I think a lot of people outside Scottish football have missed out, but obviously another chance to be on Sky and what's going to be another huge game.
Well, what about Rangers, Stephen? Because they haven't been far away from struggles this season, but Danny Rowe seems to have them playing with a bit of confidence. He said himself, he sees a different mindset among his players. I mean, that is exactly what you need going into these final pre-split games and then going into the split as well, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting comments from Danny Rowe yesterday. In fact, I agree with him. He said that 8 to 10 weeks ago, Rangers were going into games hoping they were going to win. Now they go into them expecting to win. There is a difference in mindset. There's a difference in confidence and momentum. They're going to wind at their back. That's why I think actually that goal for Hearts last night was a big one, because Rangers would have really fancied that. I mean, I listened to another phone-in last time. You get Rangers fans saying they could well see a scenario where by the end of this weekend they could be top of the league. Well, Hearts have actually said, well, okay, come and show us. So it's 2 huge games for Rangers. I mean, Celtic were comprehensively outplayed at Fir Park the last time. Okay, it's Wilfred Nancy and there were circumstances there, but I wouldn't expect the same thing to happen to Rangers necessarily in their current form. But it's a major, major test. And then, of course, you've got that game against Hearts at the weekend, and Hearts won at Ibrox the last time. So I think if Rangers come through these 2 games with 6 points, I think they will have real momentum and it'll be a hard team to stop.
Well, Stephen mentions Celtic as well, who are still fighting in there. They've got Livy at home. I mean, last time they played Livy, it was just absolute pandemonium under Wilfred Nancy, as Stephen says. But I suppose, Andy, this time round, they'll certainly be a bit more defensively solid, and you would have thought expecting to come away with a comfortable win.
Yeah, that last game I still remember it vividly, but Celtic at that point in time were under a stewardship that made it literally impossible to have any type of control in games. So that's the reason why you've seen pandemonium, not at that particular game on the day, but within the 8 games of the Wilfred Nancy spell at Celtic. And I think that's completely not the case with Martin O'Neill. Yes, they've not quite hit top form, specifically in an attacking sense, but obviously they hadn't conceded a goal at Celtic Park under Martin O'Neill since he came back until Dundee last week. So defensively, a lot more solid. Started to get bodies in the buildings, specifically at the top end of the pitch. It can really help Celtic from now to the end of the season. And Stephen mentioned earlier, at this stage of the season, it is all about results. The performances, of course, secondary. But I think Celtic fans will certainly be hoping and expecting a real upturn in performance in what they've seen against Dundee last week. But we mentioned it earlier on with Derek McInnes and Hearts. They're at the stage of the season and deserve credit to just find a way to win. Celtic done it last week in the Cup, obviously. But I've got to say, I'm expecting a bit more of a comfortable evening for them today.
I just wonder, Stephen, if anyone in the Celtic hierarchy is looking back on that Wilfred Nancy spell and thinking, what on earth were we doing? Because you look at the points that they dropped, the games that they lost. I mean, yeah, sure, they maybe would have dropped a couple of points in between then, but I mean, that's like table position changing if they'd have just left Martin O'Neill to do what Martin O'Neill does.
I don't actually think they'll be allowed to forget the Wilfred Nancy period, Charlotte. I think guys like myself have made sure of that, because I mean it was a catastrophic misjudgment. It was a season-defining error. Not just the choice of Wilfred Nancy, but the decision to appoint Paul Tisdale as head of football operations beforehand, who pushed for Wilfred Nancy. They must be sorry that ever happened. And you're absolutely right. I think if Celtic had not undergone the kind of Wilfred Nancy meltdown, they would be sitting in quite a good position at the minute. They would certainly be second, probably challenging for first if they kept with Martin O'Neill, but they can't reverse that now. I mean, they've got to try and just focus on what the task ahead. I mean, they've got Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain coming in. Big questions, what are they going to get from him? He's not played for 8 months. He is obviously 32. The question will be whether they're going to get an Aaron Moy or whether they're going to get an Aaron Ramsey. They'll be hoping for the former, I would imagine, because if they can, then it might give them a bit of impetus. But this will be the last, we said, kind of comfortable game. I mean, Livingston will have ideas in that, but after this, they've got a heck of a run coming up. They've got Hibs, they've got Kilmarnock away, they've got Hibs at home, they've got Stuttgart at home and away, then 2 big games at Ibrox and an away game at Pittodrie. So I think they have to try and make the most and make this as effortless as possible tonight, because they're going to have to conserve their energy for the games coming up.
Yeah, Andy mentioned season-defining weeks. I mean, this is certainly a season-defining week coming up for Celtic. Further down the table, there are other teams involved in that battle at the bottom. Killie hosting St Mirren, both desperate for a win to kind of get themselves out of that dogfight at the bottom. Andy, Killie are 6 points adrift of 10th. I mean, they just really need a win, plain and simple, isn't it?
Yeah, and I must admit, I've watched a lot of Kilmarnock this season. I do feel as if there's been a change in performance levels under Neil McCann. Yes, I don't think results have suggested that, but I think they look a lot more structured. I think they offer more an attacking impetus. Obviously, they get that well-alluded win against Aberdeen in brilliant fashion, winning 3-0 at Rugby Park. And then, of course, they're going to a difficult venue next week to try and continue that, and it never helps when you go down to 10 men at Ibrox within the first 3 minutes of the game. But I've got to say, even the remainder of that first half, I think you could argue that Kilmarnock edged it. I thought Kilmarnock were really good for the remaining 42 minutes of the first half. But tired legs set in, Rangers vastly improved their own performance, and then in the end, from the outside looking in for the scoreline alone, it looked like a real pasting for Kilmarnock, but absolutely wasn't in terms of performance levels in the first half. So I think Neil McCann, it wouldn't get too carried away. I think he would understand the task inevitably was at hand after going down to 10 men, and he'll just be asking his players to reset and try and find that level that they found the last time they played it at Rugby Park. Now they're up against a team who have had an almighty and different season, but I've got to say I'm expecting a really, really good game for that one, and as you quite rightly pointed out, I do feel as if it's one that Kilmarnock certainly can't lose, but I do feel as if they need 3 points and they need a few of them from now to certainly the split.
Same with St Mirren as well. They obviously got that massive win over Hearts, Stephen, but you just look at that and you think, well, if you can't do the business here tonight, that result just kind of peters out and probably doesn't really mean anything anymore.
It's amazing how teams can win a League Cup the way St Mirren did and then not quite fall off a cliff, but they've really had their problems. I don't know what it'd be interesting to get Andy's insight what the mental impact of that must be, because it's almost like they looked as if they thought their season was kind of done. But I mean, Stephen Robinson's always said that they will be dragged into a relegation battle. And I wouldn't say they're quite there yet, but they've come uncomfortably close at times. So yeah, they need to win games. One of the things I've enjoyed about this season, I'm sure we'll come on to, is one of the many things is Stephen Presley sticking 2 fingers up at his critics. And I mean, this is Dundee have really kind of done exceptionally well, were so unlucky against Celtic, but Kilmarnock really have to put pressure on them, and the only way they can do that is if they beat St Mirren tonight. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting game.
Sorry, I think the biggest surprise in terms of St Mirren, I don't think they've lost. Everyone talks about Stephen Robinson's team, how difficult they are to play against, how organised they are, how physical they are. I don't think they've lost that aspect of the game, but I look at the team and I look at the lack of goals within it. And the reason that would be a big cause for concern for me is because I actually think they have 4 really good, capable strikers for the top flight of Scottish football, but yet none of the 4 have scored any real amount of goals that can try and drive St Mirren up at the top of that table. I think now I think they've scored the second lowest goals in the league now. Might actually be joint, but for a team are the capabilities of St Mirren with the 4, like we says, at the top of the top end of the pitch. That's been that will be a real cause for concern for me. Even I get it last week against Hearts. We all know when they went down to 10 men at Tynecastle for a large part of the game, couldn't score. And then Hearts go down to 10 men early on in the first half again at the Smiza Stadium. But actually took Freckleton from a corner to score again with 3-4 minutes to go. So as much as I'm saying that I think they have 4 really good strikers at the top end of the pitch, one of them has to hit top form. If a Younger can find the form that he found in the final against Celtic, or in Lundaloo in the semi-final against Motherwell, I think that can drive St Mirren up from up the table. But I think one of them needs to start firing soon.
I think one of the big problems as well, Andy, probably has been injuries in midfield. I mean, they've lost Keanu Bacchus, Mark O'Hara for key points. They've been big players for them. So I think in mitigation, you would say that's been a factor as well, probably.
Well, Stephen Robinson said at the start of the season it was the best midfield outside Rangers and Celtic, didn't he? So I don't know if he meant depth as well. So if he meant depth as well, then you're going to expect a couple of injuries throughout the season. But well, they've missed a couple, I must say.
Yeah, big game for both teams at the bottom end of the table there. Let's talk about the final 2 matches. Assuming that they both go ahead, these teams have not been playing that much football recently due to the weather. Dundee United against Aberdeen. If this game doesn't go ahead, they've both got 3 games to catch up on. Stephen, this is already a pretty busy period for teams. I mean, if you've got 3 games that you're going to have to try and ram in, all of a sudden it just gets even busier, doesn't it?
It's a great irony, isn't it? Because obviously the SPFL, the Premiership teams have made this decision to get rid of artificial pitches. And now we see a situation where Aberdeen and Dundee United, because of a deluge in the northeast of Scotland, have been unable to get games on in grass. Whereas teams who've got artificial pitches are able to keep playing. So it does raise questions about that decision. I mean, the Dundee United said it's a fluid situation as to whether that game goes ahead. It certainly is. It certainly is a fluid situation. So we'll see about that. But yeah, they're not only losing games, they're losing fixtures. And I think it's going to be a real concern for the SPFL if this carries on, because we're always told there is no wiggle room in the fixture calendar, particularly coming up to the split. So I would think they would really want to get that on if they possibly can, Charlotte.
And what about Aberdeen, Andy? I mean, they're still looking for a new manager. I think that's coming on 40 days now without one. It doesn't seem like they're in any rush to get anything done, does it?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly understand why that would be the case. Peter Leaven did a fantastic job at interim the last time round when he got it. I think at this stage he was coming over arguably an even more difficult circumstance. But for me, I think Aberdeen need leadership. I think they need a direction to try and get back on track and follow. It's 2 teams tonight that, fair play for anyone that can predict a Dundee United or an Aberdeen performance or result, because you just don't know what you've been able to get from either side throughout the season. Dundee United, I thought they started the season ever so well. You were looking at the likes of Dolchek and Kamara and Satsford and these signings that they've brought in, and thought they could make a real charge for it again this season, obviously finishing 4th in the table last year. But I think they've lost a wee bit of that hard to beat Dundee United side that Jim Goodwin had for large parts of last year. They were really strong for set pieces, not been so much this year. And I think we all know Aberdeen struggles. I mean, the lack of consistency at Aberdeen has resulted in Jimmy Taylor losing his job. But like he says, that's felt like a long time ago. And there's obviously been murmurs over the last week or 2 of a potential replacement. And Peter Leaven needs to just try and pick up as many results as he can from now to then.
Yeah, Aberdeen were talking last week to Eric Hornland, the Norwegian manager who'd been at St Etienne. He was over in Scotland. I think he was hopeful of watching Aberdeen Celtic till that game went off. But I think there's a basic problem there, which is that St Etienne, he was earning €1 million a year. And that's more than Aberdeen tend to pay their managers. So I don't think you'd have to look too far for the main reason, but I think it's been a complicated deal, but I don't think it's dead yet. So I'll be interested to see if they can get that one over the line.
And elsewhere, Stephen, you mentioned Stephen Presley and his Dundee side, as you say, turning around and sticking 2 fingers up at everybody who was calling for Dundee to be the team relegated at the start of the season. They go to Falkirk. I mean, they were were very, very impressive against Celtic in the Cup. Probably very unlucky to not progress, particularly with the goal they scored. But I suppose that'll give them huge confidence going into this game against Falkirk, that they can put on a performance and score impressive goals as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much confidence anybody can have going to Falkirk these days. I mean, it's one of these grounds, again, a bit like Fir Park, where you know you're going to have a heck of an away game. Really, really difficult. They've been in terrific form, Falkirk. Really good, thrilling team to watch. Really enjoyed watching them this season. Did they have a little bit of wiggle room because they got that 6 points of Kilmarnock and they have a game in hand? But yeah, they can't afford to be taking their feet off the pedal too much. They need to keep going. But I think the performance at Celtic Park has to give them huge heart. It's a different kind of game, of course, but as I say, Stephen Presley, I think, has really confounded his critics. I mean, there were fans who wanted him gone. He'd only been in the door 10 minutes. And okay, they're not out of the woods yet, but I think he's done a really good job in confounding people.
Football fans, eh?
Who knew?
Who knew? And what about Falkirk, Andy? Because they've been finding ways to win. They've been so impressive in games. I mean, they're looking pretty much, if they can kind of keep this up, pretty much assured for top six. And I suppose you'd say probably no less than they deserve.
No, absolutely not. I think they've been... if I put my neutral hat on, which I certainly don't have, but they've arguably been my favourite team outside Motherwell to watch this season. I think they've got a brilliant blend of playing at the right time or pressing high at the right time. They've been really well structured and organised and compact. I think they've got many, many bows to their game, and I think everyone watched John McGlinn's team in the Championship and League One, where they were always building out for the back and dominating games and controlling games. But John McGlynn, I think, has done a fantastic job of adapting to the top flight. And for me, adding another string to his bow, like I says, I've been a really high energy team at the top end of the pitch and getting after teams and pressing high, which they probably didn't have to do for the most part of the Championship and the League One tenure. And again, I love the story of the players that he's took along with him. So many players that have been on the journey from League One. Kieran Adams come for university, Barney Stewart come for university. Young players down in England getting an opportunity to come up and play first team football. It's been an incredible run, an incredible journey, and I mentioned it last week, and I don't think that position's changed. Stephen will probably be part of the picking the manager of the year shortlist and eventual winner at the end of the season. Well, good luck, because at this stage it must be such a difficult decision with the 3-4 managers you could certainly make favourites for.
Well, you can listen to all of tonight's action from BBC Scotland Extra from 6 o'clock. There's also commentary of Motherwell against Rangers. And that is all we've got time for this morning. Many thanks to Stephen and Andy. And thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll catch you again tomorrow.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.